After 15 years with the Chargers, Phillip Rivers is an Indianapolis Colt, and he reunites with Frank Reich, who worked with the quarterback as the offensive coordinator with the Chargers in 2014 and 2015. Rivers might not be the quarterback he was 5 years ago, but he's still certainly capable of being a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. His deep ball and arm strength have taken a hit, but for most of his career, he's relied on anticipation throws, quick rhythm passes, big receivers that allow him to place the ball accurately on back shoulders, and using his running backs in the pass game. In fact, Rivers targeted running backs 177 times and on 29.6% of passes last year in LA. In comparison, the Colts targeted running backs just 17.7% of the time. This isn't a one-year anomaly either. Even when Reich was the OC with the Chargers in 2015, Rivers targeted running backs 25.6% of the time. The Colts rely heavily on their running backs in their dynamic running game, which I covered previously, but they lacked a true receiving threat out of the backfield, with Nyheim Hines being their lead guy with just 44 receptions for 320 yards. Part of that is due to the scheme and personnel of the Colts versus that of the Chargers, but it's still a big disparity between the two systems and their personnel. There's a couple ways where Rivers aligns perfectly with what the Colts do, but there's also a few of these types of misalignments. We'll take a closer look here at what Rivers' strengths are and how he might fit into the passing game designed by Frank Reich. Frank Reich definitely tailors his offenses to the personnel he has. When with Rivers in 2015, he designed a lot of short rhythm passing that emphasized getting the ball out fast and into the hands of receivers and playmakers. This fits Rivers' quick decision-making style and his penchant for throwing to running backs. Lots of shallows, slants, hooks, and flares by the running back and tight ends keep the chains moving and allowed for the Chargers' best weapons like Antonio Gates, Keenan Allen, and Danny Woodhead to get the ball in their hands in the open field. Now, 4 years later, Rivers likes to throw a lot of those same routes to a similar cast in Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler. Despite interim OC Shane Steichen not having the most polished and cohesive offensive system after inheriting what Ken Whisenhunt had started during the 2019 season, Rivers was still able to find his comfort zone and rely on his most trusted receivers. These short rhythm and anticipation throws have been what Rivers has lived off these last couple seasons. He shows incredible touch and anticipation on deep outs, corners, curls, and back shoulders. And to be honest, he kind of has to. His ball has definitely lost some zip and seems to hang in the air for what feels like an eternity on some throws. Because he can't quite push it as much anymore, he relies on trusting his receivers to be in the right place at the right time, and often he's starting his throwing motion before they even get to their break. Something that can take years of reps to develop. These chemistry throws might take a little while to develop with the Colts receivers. But here he is again, throwing the ball to where his receiver will be before they've broken out of their route. The ball is 10 yards downfield by the time the receiver even turns around. These throws are incredibly hard to defend when the quarterback and the receiver are on the same page. While Rivers does do a great job of throwing with anticipation to out-breaking routes, he doesn't really do it with in-breaking routes or based off of defender keys, and this is where he can leave plays on the field or where his diminishing arm strength can cost him. Rivers doesn't read the linebacker in man coverage here, which opens up a window for the dig behind it. The receiver has leverage, but he can't get the ball up and down fast enough to prevent the safety from making a play. Here, instead of working from the dig to the post, which is wide open after the linebacker doesn't drop underneath it, he wants to immediately check down to his running back, who falls on the play, and Rivers ends up getting sacked. Here, he doesn't read the linebacker again, as the dig is opening up with space in the middle zone of the field. These are throws that he makes consistently and with ease to the outside, but he struggles to do the same anticipatory throws off of linebackers in the intermediate passing game. Part of the reason for this is his love for using running backs in the passing game. While they can be lethal in great mismatches, sometimes there's an over-reliance and he skips over reads to immediately check down to them. Here, he looks right at a dig coming open in zone and passes it up to throw the flat route by the running back. If he doesn't love it immediately, he goes to the check down. There really isn't anything between his first and second read. It's his rhythm throw or anticipation throw, and then immediately the check down to the running back or underneath route. Involving your running backs in the pass game isn't the worst way to run the offense, and Rivers had a career high in yards with Reich in 2015 running that very style. When you can get a mismatch and you have guys like Danny Woodhead, Darren Sproles, Austin Eckler, or LaDainian Tomlinson, it can make your offense go. It opens up windows for everyone else and creates yard after the catch opportunities with natural ball carriers in the open field. The Chargers this year largely use their running backs as immediate release options where they're part of the initial design play versus having them check release for blitzes or help in pass pro before releasing. When your running backs are some of the best players, it's a great way to get them involved, and Rivers does it super well with good touch and decisiveness. You can compare that now to the very different way that the Colts used their running backs last year. Now that may change as Rivers arrives and Reich adapts what they're doing, but the Colts running backs were largely last resort outlets on check releases or used in the screen game. The Chargers would rarely ever keep their running backs in for pass protection because of Rivers' penchant for throwing to them and exploiting those mismatches on linebackers in the open field. The Colts do have some immediate releases in the playbook for their running backs, and I'd expect them to use that a lot more with Rivers. Nyheim Hines definitely seems like the guy to get it to with his surprising speed, but the Colts now have a pretty crowded backfield with Jonathan Taylor drafted out of Wisconsin and added to the mix with Marlon Mack. Because they weren't using their running backs a ton in the short game, the Colts ran a lot more intermediate passing than the Chargers did, which isn't entirely Rivers' forte. Until they drafted Michael Pittman, who physically is very similar to Mike Williams in LA, the Colts' largest receiver was 6'2" Zach Pascal. The intermediate and play action and deep pass game was a lot more effective with the speedier, smaller guys that the Colts had, and the shorter possession anticipation throws fit the skills of the Chargers receivers. The Chargers only attempted 90 play action shots, but on those, Rivers completed 74% of his passes and had a 113.2 quarterback rating. So expect the Colts to utilize their strong running game to play action and open up intermediate and deep windows that Rivers can take advantage of despite his previous avoidance of them. Based on the way things have shifted from when Reich was with Rivers in San Diego to his time in Indianapolis now, he clearly tweaks and adjusts his offense to fit the quarterback he has behind center. Noted by Reich this offseason was that they need to get more chunk plays off play action and emphasize concepts and plays where they have higher percentage throws. Rivers absolutely helps with both of those and can keep the ball moving underneath with his love of running backs out of the backfield, rhythm throws on slants and curls, and some intermediate anticipation throws that can develop on play action like deep crossers and comebacks. I'm not sure he'll be able to use T.Y. Hilton's speed to its fullest capabilities, and I worry a bit about the deep ball, but with such a strong run game and Rivers' knowledge and experience and Reich's ability to tweak the system to match personnel, the Colts may be just fine attacking underneath and in intermediate zones off play action to sustain the offense instead of having big explosive plays and long touchdowns. Rivers isn't the quarterback he used to be, but he should absolutely raise the level of play in Indianapolis and give the Colts a chance to win the AFC South. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. It helps us out tremendously. Comment below who you'd like me to analyze next, and make sure to check out our website, weeklyspiral.com, where you can read all our latest content, including a written form of this video with GIFs. You can also find our Patreon and social handles and all that stuff there as well. Until next time, I'm Casey Sully, and I'll see you on the next film breakdown.